This is Robert Merdlacci, the Mindshare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine. And welcome to this week in Canadian EdTech unboxing the Canvas LMS by Instructure with Amineh Olad-Koper. Thank you for joining me this morning, Amineh.
Thanks, Robert. Nice to see you. Thanks for having us.
A little bit about Amineh, who has been a senior solutions engineer at Instructure for the past 4.5 years. Prior to Instructure, she led multiple transformation-based projects to support information technology innovation, faculty development, and technology-enabled learning in K-12 and higher education. In her previous role, she managed digital strategy and innovation at George Brown College. Throughout her career, she has been an adjunct lecturer at colleges and universities throughout the greater Toronto area, and now living in Chicago, but is a Canadian. And congratulations on your first client at the University of Toronto, who's been a long time, one of the top universities in Canada. That's not a bad way to start. And let's talk about Instructure and give us perhaps an overview of the evolution of the Canvas LMS in higher education institutions. And I first became familiar with Instructure when I attended the South by Southwest EDU conference many years ago, at least 10 plus years ago. And it's built from the cloud and the ground up, as opposed to having pivoted from a solution that was previously not.
On-prem. Yeah, we never started on-prem. We started on AWS. And I think, that's really attributed to the fact that our founders were computer science students at Brigham Young University in Utah. And essentially, Canvas was created because they had a school project where they had to kind of look at technologies and say, hey, can we take a technology that's currently in use and make it better? So they took their learning platform that they had at the university, and they just decided to go and do a long road trip down the west coast of the United States, gather as much information and data from faculty members and students in terms of what they wanted to see in the learning platform, and then really just put that into practice and dev'd out that whole system. So the ideation of Canvas really started in 2008, and Canvas became more of a globalized company in 2014, and then we got data residency in Canada in 2017. So it's a fairly young tech company when you're thinking about being able to achieve global market share, which is quite incredible. We're still a young company yet.
And I'm intrigued by the founders and their listening skills and paying attention to the needs of the market. You came from the academic side, so it's an interesting pivot that you made, because it really demonstrates their commitment to understanding the needs of the market.
Absolutely. And, I made the pivot because I had looked at certain solutions in my previous role. And the solutions I was looking at was for a very specific program. It was a program for deaf and hard of hearing learners. So there was a lot that we had to do that was a little bit more bespoke and custom in that program. And it just turned out from our evaluations that Canvas really just fit the bill for that. So I really got exposure to the company, and that's kind of how I kind of came on board. What I can say, what really attracted me to Instructure was the fact that so many of the folks that I work with every single day are faculty members, they're instructors, they're teachers, they come from that background. So you have a whole lot of passionate individuals that are really trying to advocate for the technology because we're users of the technology.
Absolutely. From an innovative features perspective, what are some of the most innovative features that recently introduced in the Canvas LMS that really separates you and are game-changing in higher education from the competition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going to highlight just a couple of things on this screen that I think are really important for us to keep in mind in terms of where the future of higher education or education more broadly is going. But I will say, in terms of the things that we don't see or the things that are behind the curtain, is the fact that not only are we using AWS, like EC2 auto scaling technology, which really just helps the platform stay up, but internally, we've also developed really great reactive kind of auto scaling mechanisms. We call this hot tub. And it just allows us to understand when there's going to be jumps in usage spikes. So this is relevant for having a platform that stays up and ready to go. And when we're thinking about exam time and how important it is for all of us to be able to access a system, being able to have a system that is available is really key. So in 2020, during everyone being online, some for the first time in terms of teaching, we were able to have concurrent usage of over 6 million users. That's 6 million users at the same time on Canvas.
Wow.
We've only improved that technology that we have. So Canvas doesn't, has an incredible amount of uptime. So that's kind of the behind the curtain thing that I think we need to think about, is just, what is the infrastructure that any learning platform company is using and leveraging. And then if I go over just onto my screen here, if we're kind of sharing my screen, you can see that I have the Canvas community. And I think that the Canvas community really sets us apart in terms of the fact that this is one of the more heavily used and certainly robust in terms of the number of users, kind of an EdTech community that exists online. So pretty much within this space, you can explore anything that is related to Instructure and the entirety of the learning platform. And more poignantly, what you are also able to see is a very transparent roadmap of every single thing that we are working on per quarter within the calendar year. So if I
Amazing.
go over here into the Canvas side of things, you can really just see what we're working on, why we are working on it. And that helps in terms of our accountability for what we deliver to any of our partners or any of our customers.
And that's a collaborative process based on your customer feedback, I presume?
Absolutely. So much of this has to deal with idea conversations. So you could go into the kind of the Instructure website, and anybody can go in. You don't have to be a customer to go check out the website. It's not gated in any way, which I think is really important. But you are able to go in and essentially either upvote ideas, or if you have ideas of your own, you're able to share those ideas and they can get upvoted. And then they can kind of go into a bit of an ideation queue with our product managers and with our engineering team. That being said, we do have a lot of product user groups with our current customers who really help to inform the product design more generally. So it's very much something that is done, I would say, a little bit more organically, certainly in terms of the design methodology that we have. We know that at least half of our ideas aren't going to work. And of the ideas that have some level of potential, it's going to take several iterations to kind of get to the stage of implementation and of delivery. That's just the nature of product design, right? So I think that it's a really beautiful thing that we're able to articulate all of this. And just in terms of a few other things that I do want to make mention of, we recently, this past month, had our InstructureCon conference. So this took place in Las Vegas. So if anybody is really curious about the direction of the company, we have a lot of the keynote conversations and presentations all posted for free to watch on our website. So you could literally just type in Instructure conference July, and it should be one of the #1 hits in the Google search engine, and you will be able to kind of go in and watch exactly what it is that we are kind of working on or looking at. But what I will say and what I will articulate is that there is such a heavy focus right now on AI, and how we are going about looking at AI more holistically as a company. What you all
Right.
need to know is that when it comes to AI, we do follow kind of an ethical, principled approach, which took us time as a company to kind of come up with. So from the instructor perspective, we really look at productivity. And then from the learner perspective, we're thinking about support, right? We're thinking about encouraging that acquisition of knowledge and how we're going to go about doing all of that. So everything is publicly posted in relation to our stance on AI, knowing that many universities and colleges are creating their own AI governance policies. And in order to kind of help with that a little bit further, what I'm just showing right now on my screen is one of the tools that we will check out in the platform itself. But this is a smart search tool. So this is a course level tool that instructors and students are going to be able to use in order to best find content, right? So you're asking it a question and hopefully it's going to retrieve the exact area of the course that is going to be relevant for you to answer that question. Where we differ is the fact that we do have nutrition facts for every single AI tool that we create. So not only are we doing tools like search, but we have tools in the platform that are more focused on data and AI. And so if you want to know what the tech stack is, what the privacy implications are going to be with student data, with instructor data, in order to decide on if this is something that you want to leverage at your school, we are essentially giving you all of the information so that you can make a decision whether or not this tool would be of use to you or not, based on what your policies are and what your beliefs are around the leveraging of AI. And many of the tools that we're creating around AI are going to be a part of core Canvas, meaning that they're not paid for tools. You don't have to pay extra for them, but certainly you can decide on whether or not you would want to enable them, right? So we're
Right.
not going to force you to use any of those tools. So I had mentioned a little earlier on that we have something called Smart Search. So you can see here, it's in feature preview. So it's still kind of undergoing some development.
Right.
But what I think is great is that we have a little pop-out tray, kind of discusses a little bit more about, hey, what are the implications of this tool? We kind of have that nicely nested within this space here. And then if I just wanted to go and look at, I don't know, like Buckingham pi theorem, right? I am in a fluid mechanics course. There are going to be some content areas retrieved that go about explaining the Buckingham pi theorem. Now, I'm just doing a very general search. I'm not doing
Sure.
a search that is specifically asking this a question like you would in Perplexity AI or ChatGPT 4, which you will be
Right.
able to do. And remember, anything that's AI driven is going to be trained, right? So we can train the model as we go, and the model is currently being trained right now. And when it comes to other areas inside of the platform, and what I didn't mention before is I am in the more instructor side of Canvas. I'm in one of my Canvas courses here. If I just go over into a discussion board, what you're also able to see is that we have discussion summaries enabled. So this is another AI-oriented tool. AI is running in the background, and this really just gives us a high-level overview of all of the themes that we see inside of the discussions from all of this different student posts. And when we are instructors, we know that sometimes our discussion boards get massive, right? There could be hundreds of posts, and it's really nice for us to be able to withdraw the themes in order to maybe build upon that in a later lecture or discussion with our students. So again, this is some of the AI kind of tools and technology that we are using as a part of our core. Something else that I can't show you, but you can definitely look up a little later on is our block editor. And our block editor is really an editor that is going to help you make really, really nice looking content inside of Canvas. So we're thinking about utilizing all those different tools when we're looking at content creation.
Fascinating. I love the nutrition facts.
Yeah.
It's very relatable in giving that important description.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only are nutrition facts used tools that are a part of our, what will be a part of our core, or even tools that will eventually be more for like an extra amount in terms of some of the work that we're doing around data and AI. But I think it's really great that a lot of our partners that we're going to be working with, they are going to have nutrition facts for the tools that integrate inside of Canvas. So really anybody who is thinking about Instructure and a partnership with us, or as a current customer, you really are going to be in the know regarding what it is that you want to be using and how it's going to be relevant for you, right? So again, just going back to our ethical stance on these tools.
Right. And thank you for that. I was going to ask you about AI and the impact of AI. Talk to me about student engagement. How does Canvas LMS enhance student engagement and support active
Yeah.
learning in higher education? I know playing faculty hockey with the professors at York University, they lament over this very challenge today, post COVID, because not every student wants to come to class. Not every student is highly engaged. It's a real it's an art and it's a science, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's really interesting when we're thinking about that in terms of the learning platform, because Canvas is going to support an instructor whether they just post their syllabus online and that's all that they do, or if they want to have a course that has far more content and far more capabilities for either synchronous or asynchronous engagement. So really you can think of our platforms as a vehicle, but we're not trying to be super prescriptive of pedagogy and how someone essentially builds out their course, but we certainly have the capabilities within the platform to encourage that. And since we're kind of talking about some of the cool, kind of latest and greatest things that is a part of our platform now, we've recently announced that we have an integration and a relationship with Lucid. So if anybody's kind of heard of Lucid before in the past. They create really great kind of like whiteboarding and brainstorming technology tools. And so you can utilize this for free now inside of Canvas for your students, for yourself as an instructor. You can kind of set up your own free account and it comes as an LTI integration. So it's just an app that plugs in and you're essentially able to kind of create really great content. So what I have here is just a whiteboard where people can kind of go in and like map out their ideas. But if I jump over into our rich content editor, which is a WYSIWYG editor, what you see is what you get.
Right.
It's really a foundational tool of using the platform itself. You can see within here that I am going to be able to create a document, right? So I can go in and I can say, okay, I want to create a diagram of some sort, and maybe I want to create it from a template because I need some, creative help here. Look at all of the options that I have available to me in
Wow.
order to make something, that's going to be relevant to the curriculum that I'm teaching in my class, right? And it's really
What a great
nice.
value add
Yeah, it definitely
tool.
takes,
Yeah.
pressure off the instructor too, in terms of having to develop this on their own and then put it inside of the platform itself. So I think
Talk
that
to
this
me.
is really
Yeah,
helpful.
talk to me about other third-party tools and platforms. Can you discuss some of the more popular integrations and how they'll benefit educators and students?
Yeah, definitely. So, in terms of some of the integrations that do exist, we do have an app store. It's called the EDU App Store, where kind of anybody can go in and peruse. Really quick, kind of what we call it plug and play applications. So these are applications where essentially you just have to add in a key and a secret. So the license key and secret, and you can kind of plug this into your course or plug this into your into the admin side of Canvas. So we do have these capabilities here. There's about 500 quick plug and play apps, but there are thousands and thousands of integrations that do exist inside of Canvas. I think some of the more popular ones that I have to speak to now with my customers are around originality checking. So we're thinking of the Turnitins of the world. We're thinking of the copy leaks of the world when it comes to looking at AI and originality, because it's such a gray, blurred area that kind of everyone is kind of trying to figure out how to deal with this as we go. So certainly there's a lot of optionality when it comes to this. We are working on a partnership right now with the Khan Academy. So you may have heard of Khanmigo, and that is a support tool that your students can leverage. Currently, Khanmigo is only available in the United States, but at some point it will be available in Canada, and that integration is being worked on. So just having those chat bots, those tutorial bots, I think those are what are going to be very, very impactful for the student experience, because for the most part, that's what a lot of our students are already used to using. So having it in the learning platform is just something that is going to be second nature in terms of how they navigate technology.
And you got my attention with the credible. So micro-credentialing is a real trend in higher education. I could use the Canvas LMS to have a micro-credential course as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are lots of credentialing tools that do exist, and, we're an open platform, so we're going to work with those tools. We did acquire a company called Badger a few years ago, so some folks on the call might be, or who are listening to this would be familiar with that. We've rebranded it Canvas Credentials, and we've really worked on with all of our tools. And I think what sets us apart is our interoperability. And so what you can see here is the fact that I have a learning pathway. So this is a pathway that my students would be able to see. And within this pathway, there are the capabilities for them to identify each individual credential that is representative either of a course and how they've completed a course, or it's how they have completed a specific skill or a requirement, a milestone, in order to get to their engineering science pathway. So I'm seeing more and more now the fact that we want to be able to highlight the journey that somebody is going to be undertaking, whether it's going to be a 2-year program or a 4-year program, or it's something that's more co-curricular in nature. So we do have this option to have these credentials within the system. And I think, from the student perspective, being able to have a shareable credential that is verified by an institution is really key, because I can put that on my LinkedIn profile. I can put that on my socials. And anybody who's looking at me as a potential candidate for a position is going to know that I actually understand and have completed this skill. I'm not just saying that I did. Somebody else,
Right.
somewhere else in the world, has verified that I have this knowledge. So I think that that's going to be really important. And I'm just showing right within here all of the different kind of credentials or badges that exist within my particular course. And I am also able to kind of toggle over and see the different progress of
Wow.
learners. So if we're thinking about engagement, and this is very dependent on the curriculum that you're teaching and the students that you can have leaderboards set up. So this can also help with some gamified
Oh, cool.
capabilities within your
Yeah.
course too. Yeah.
Powerful stuff. Talk to me about data analytics. How does Canvas LMS utilize data analytics to provide insights in student
Yeah.
performance and help educators make informed decisions, if you will?
Absolutely. So we go about looking at data from lots of perspectives. I think what's really important for everybody to know is that there is a way for everyone who is a Canvas customer to retrieve their data via an API that is pointed toward your specific data portal. So we call that Canvas Data 2 right now, and it allows for you to withdraw your data with a latency of 4 hours or less, which is incredibly significant. We're thinking about how massive these data sets are. So you can take your data out in more of a raw format and then query that with your favorite business intelligence tool. You could visualize it. That's one way to go about looking at your data. But then we also have analytic dashboards built into the system. So we have this for instructors, students, and for anybody who's more of an administrator. So what I'm showing right now on my screen is something called New Analytics, and this is for your instructors. So essentially what this gives us is information around the grades, the student and learner activity, high-level information on our students, and then the capability to take this information out of the system if we wanted to in a CSV report. Okay, so this is everything that an instructor can do. So within this space, I can very easily kind of filter around here and kind of compare and contrast students or sections of information within my course. But I can also kind of click into a data point that is representative of an assessment in my class. And it's giving me the average grade, the low and the high scores, but it's also telling me what is missing and what potentially could be late if there was anything late. And I think what's key about this is it's not just giving me this information, it's allowing me to act on it. And so if I just click over on this envelope over here and I go over and look at all of these different learners that have not yet handed in this work, I can very easily message them from here, right? So I have a lot more power over intervention that is very efficient when it comes to being an instructor. And the same is going to be true for our weekly online activity, right? So I can see from this page here all of the different students in my class. Are they looking at content? Are they participating in an area of the course where participation is going to be warranted? And then I can also see if folks are clicking into the different content areas. What is it that they're looking at? What aren't they looking at? And then maybe I can surmise as to, okay, maybe there's some changes that I need to make to my course, or maybe I need to intervene with my students a little more. And then just like what we have for our kind of course interventions for grades, I can also intervene for students that maybe are not like participating or are not viewing content, or maybe they are viewing content. So again, we're just really trying to empower our instructors to very quickly intervene with students, but your students would also get their own analytic dashboard
Right.
that would give them some level of accountability. So if I'm
Right.
messaging someone, it should be of no shock to them as to why I am messaging them.
Right. And ultimately support student success.
Exactly. And we can also do that from a very high level. So if I go over into more of the guided user interface kind of back end, we do have something called our admin analytics. And again, this is just all a part of the core of Canvas. So this isn't an added cost at all. What we do is we surface all the information that you would need to see at the university or the college level in relation to general overview about our folks interacting with the tools in a Canvas course, our instructors interacting, and it also gives us the filter to really drill down into specific, in Canvas, what a sub-account is it's a department, right? So if I wanted to look at a specific department to see what the interactions are like, are folks, using the discussion board, something like that, I'm going to be able to kind of drill down into all these different areas. And I think what's really great when we look at other further kind of dashboards that we do offer is the fact that you can kind of set up, more internally at a school, what your decisions around course activity criteria are, or what does student activity mean for you? And then you're going to be able to really decide on, on creating some really interesting dashboards, and then you can extract this data out. So again, this is something that I think is really important to have, because we know that not
Right.
everybody has, a technical team, a data science team at the ready. So this definitely gives you the capability to understand or see a little bit more about the transactions taking place in the environment, and then ultimately look at it from the perspective of how are students performing? Are they submitting work? If they're not submitting work, or if they are, who are these people? What courses are they in?
Right.
And giving you that capability to even download your data out of the system. So again, I work with so many folks. And
Mhm.
they don't have time to go into Tableau or Microsoft BI and visualize their information,
Sure.
but they'll come into here and they'll withdraw the images of these dashboards and they'll put them into their executive decks, right, when they
Well,
have to present this to leadership.
mission critical stuff. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Oh,
Accessibility and inclusivity. What steps
yeah.
has Instructure taken to ensure Canvas LMS is accessible and inclusive for all students, including those with disabilities?
Absolutely. So, a couple of things that I think are going to be incredibly key here in terms of how we look at accessibility. I'm going to bring this up on the screen. We do have the Canvas VPAT. So essentially, this area here is really denoting the fact that we are conformant to the WCAG standards that exist. So these are the software standards that most companies should be abiding by. So all of our products that we have are tested by third-party auditors. And in addition to having 4 accessibility engineers on staff that are consistently working with our product team, working with other engineering teams in order to ensure that that the product is going to be accessible, that it is going to work, not just from a coding perspective, but we also have tools that are in the platform for user customization. And what I will also say around accessibility, which I think is really key, is although we do a lot of testing, we know we can't test in every single assistive device that exists on the market. So we have a partnership with Fable, and Fable does additional user testing for us. So if you're not familiar with Fable, because maybe you're not in the accessibility space, they're a really great company to check out, and they do extensive reviews of products from many different perspectives, and it just helps us make our platform better. And then certainly from a high level overview for anybody who's going into Canvas for the first time, or maybe this is going to be the 1000th time, every single individual has the capability to, one, download their course content either in an EPUB format. You can also have access to your course offline if you're a student using the Canvas student app, which is great. So this is more inclusivity than as we would think of as, accessibility when it comes to screen readers and things of that nature. But we do have lots and lots of user options within the environment around high contrast UI, disabling some of the imagery that we have that a lot of folks love, but we know that can be disjointed for some. So we do a lot for the individual user to kind of set up what their preferences are, in addition to just having the tech stack that is going to work with the tools that exist on the market. And then lastly, what we also have is something called the accessibility checker. So this accessibility checker right within here is going to flag any rich content that might have some kind of an issue. So if I add in colors into my course here, my course content that might not be super accessible, it's automatically going to flag that for me. So we can see this little numerical value appear, and it is going to tell me, hey, this fuchsia pink color, that is not accessible, right? That's not an accessible color. You need to change that. So it allows me to remediate that issue in line, which I think is really great. And for anybody who's an instructor that maybe is not as familiar with a lot of the accessibility guidelines that exist, certainly you can read a little bit more about why content might not be accessible and why remediation should take place. And this is a really great tool because if students are engaged in discussions in Canvas, they also can check for accessibility. So any student that I would have, I'd say, hey, check for accessibility before you post to the rest of the class. So there are these little things that we're able to do in the environment to make it more inclusive for everyone.
Amineh, thank you so much. You've covered all the bases. What a deep learning and rich experience it's been taking a deep dive into the Canvas LMS today. Any final thoughts to share with our viewers?
Yeah, I think, what Instructure is really looking at, and, if you go over and check out anything that has gone on at our recent conference, we're also really looking at, the future of learning from the perspective of employability, of showing what we know, of utilizing micro-credentials in really interesting ways. So and thinking about what the comprehensive learner record is going to look like. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's being worked on right now. Some of it I can't really talk about right now, but I definitely encourage anybody, if you're curious about Canvas, to either schedule a call with somebody on my team or myself, or check out our website and kind of peruse around and make some decisions whether or not you'd want to investigate this further. If you're a current customer, maybe there's some tools that we're coming out with that you aren't aware of, or if you're Canvas curious, certainly get in contact with us.
With that, thank you so much for your time again this afternoon, Amineh.
Yeah. Thanks, Robert.
That was Amineh Olad-Koper, Senior Solutions Engineer at Canvas LMS by Instructure. My name is Robert Mardwan, Chief of the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare learning to get your latest issue. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.